Right. Okay, thank you very much for coming. I'm hoping this might be a short, sweet and sharp session, but you guys are considered to be our IDF champions so far, and I said this all through the training for end users that eventually everyone should be a champion, because this is, IDF is just not this thing, it's just a way of doing business here. But until we get to that point, then we're obviously going to need people in the business that can mentor and help along the way to get us all to that place. So thank you, and I know some people were by default appointed mostly by me, so thank you for showing up. But we'll run through what it means and kind of the roles and expectations, accountability and responsibilities of the IDF, just so that you're aware what we're proposing as that ongoing monitoring and how we work out or deem if it's working. So what's the criteria we're actually assessing against, and that, mind you, is an activity that's not yet set. So I'm seeking some feedback and input from you guys on that. And some feedback or how we deal with feedback and improvement ideas from the business. So IDF champions, as you all are called, the idea of the champion, it's not a formal structured thing, it's just what we do expect, however, is that you're championing the benefits of the IDF to the business. It is a big change, and it is new for a lot of people, and sometimes that can be daunting in itself. So where possible, just champion that benefit and expressing that benefit, and whilst it might seem hard, stick at it will make this easier. The next one is about providing advice to the business or different people on application of the IDF. So to start with, and I know we've had situations already where people have gone, I don't understand where this is in at the IDF, or how do I apply IDF? What does it mean? So the intent is that champions are known, so your beautiful photos will be on the connected page as our champions, so that your people that someone could pick up the phone or go over to and say, hey Dion, can you help me here? And I appreciate that this is new for some of you as well, so there's a bit of getting you guys up to speed also. The other third point is around assisting Brooke, so Manager of Governance, where there's issues or improvements that have been identified for IDF. And this is really on an as-needs basis. There's no set meetings for this, and it may not be that all champions get pulled in, but certainly a bit of a brains trust for working through how you might solve an issue or deal with an improvement idea that someone raises. Does that seem fair enough? Nothing scary in that to anyone? No, all good.
Yeah, not at all.
Cool. So in terms of, this is more accountability and responsibilities around the framework itself. I thought this would be good to give you an understanding of who plays a role in managing the IDF in a sense from the bigger picture. So the IDF ownership is the Finance, Governance and Risk Business Unit, and the accountable role is Manager of Governance. So Brooke has been the lucky duck that I'm handing this baton to. And then the responsibilities are then split. So the framework itself and the documentation associated to it is the responsibility of Brooke, Manager of Governance. The data that sits in IPP is the Manager of Asset Governance responsibility, so that quality of that data and getting it into there. And then the technology side of it, so making sure we've got IPP doing what it's meant to do. So the Tech 1 side is Systems Metric and Modelling Specialist, so Sarah. So we got really strong feedback when we did consultation about being really clear which positions are accountable and responsible for which aspects of how IDF works. And so that's what we've tried to do in really getting clarity around that. So in terms of ongoing monitoring, and this was something that I had a few discussions with a few different people about. Someone said to me, they go, well, how are you going to measure or know if the IDF is doing what we intended it to do? And so I started thinking about, well, what are those criteria that we could tangibly actually assess? So I've thrown together here a bit of a list, and I pulled this and copied and pasted from a few different other areas. This was also some stuff that when IDF was originally created by John Singh a few years back, that he actually had some of these criteria already identified. So I just want to go through an activity, and I'm going to jump out of this and have a look at each item, talk about how we might actually measure it. So if we're assessing the performance of IDF, how would we actually know that it's working, it's doing what we're expecting it to do, and who would be the one monitoring that? Is it always manager of governance and that governance team, or is there others? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep. So, can you guys see that okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Cutting a bit off.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so the first one I had, so the first two are about people. So end users are trained and understand requirements of to follow IDF. So this, I guess I struggled a little bit with one. How do we know that people understand it? And is that something we can actually measure? Because the other one is new employees are effectively inducted. So they're doing the Elmo course when they first start. So that we can measure through the Elmo space, but I'm not sure about this front space, whether it's just based on this initial rollout of training, or what's the thoughts?
I think it's a subjective assessment. It's really going to be observing and seeing people are using the templates, that they're following the process, and they're not getting decisions made outside of it. But do you know what I mean? So if we start seeing projects progressing and they haven't actually been through the IDF, then that would be they're either not understanding it, or we're just not following it for some reason.
It's very hard to capture.
Yeah,
Capturing someone's understanding of something is near impossible of capturing that.
So is there a different criteria?
Sorry, Deanne, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just thinking along the lines of either a set period of time, maybe, or something like that after you've had the initial training. It's just like that, doing a follow-up, making sure that they still understand the process is still working. It hasn't just faded back into the grey fog, so to speak. It might just be a supervisor or whatever, they're having their quick chat with them, just to check that, yep, they still understand that this is the process and they are following it.
So
just a review type thing.
Yeah, which is that subjective assessment, really.
Yeah.
So probably the criteria where you've got the word understand is probably not really measurable. So you probably need to have something where it is trained in utilising or something that's tangible that you can actually get data on. Because understand is very thought process. So, and that way you can measure that projects done outside of IDF versus number of projects through IDF and find that balance there.
So is it all, so those capital investment decisions being made through IDF, not outside?
Yep.
And is that all capital decisions or majority? Like, is there a number we put to that, or is that like how do we measure that?
Are you expecting a 100% compliance?
I do.
I do.
I'm expecting 100%. I don't think we make it anything less.
That's right. Yeah. If you set the standard low to start with, well, it'll keep slipping. How can a project or any works? Because I would assume this would be applicable to the operational side as well as capital works. For major works to be performed, it should be going through the same process.
It's not fully applicable to operational as yet.
No.
So the corporate standard clearly identifies that. So let's just, I guess in the next 12 months, let's focus on capital.
But that'd be your only way to get through if they're performing works as operational rather than capital, where it should have went through the IDF to try and bypass it maybe, or something like that.
Yeah, so if you've got anything less than 100%, then you've got some users that aren't trained.
That's right.
Or it may not necessarily be a training issue, but it should warrant further investigation into it.
Yeah.
Enforcement issue.
Okay, so let's leave it at that.
Yeah.
It still is a fairly subjective assessment, but.
So who monitors that?
Good question.
Would it be part of the project reporting?
I don't know who monitors it, but basically they won't get the right cost coding requirements if they don't follow it, because that will stop at my team. So
Sarah, is it your team listed there, and it's not necessarily monitors, but it's more
Just capturing the data.
You'll know if it's occurring, and then you refer it back, I guess, to me to get addressed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we can highlight when we see these things occur. So the only time that we won't capture it is if people go and cost to somewhere. They choose another work order somewhere and they capture it when they're not supposed to, which I know happens here still. So that will potentially happen. But if people try and get the right cost coding or the right work order, then my team will know about it.
Yeah. I'm happy from a governance perspective that we get an issue addressed or raise it, but I won't know about it unless someone else is telling me. Do you know what I mean? I can't monitor it from that perspective.
Yeah. And in some instances we do actually hear about it when people have costed things to the wrong place. So, if we come across those, we'll also pass them on.
Yeah. I do think too, any champion, anyone involved in this, I guess, from this perspective, has the opportunity to raise if you're observing anything in your areas as well, though, too. That's probably more that subjective assessment.
Yep.
Are these measures?
Also, is there going to be triggers for each phase where you just can't get past this next phase until X is done? Like, I know we have our sponsors sign off as such, but if they're circumnavigating it in other ways with different cost codes and things like that, it's got to come back to be captured later, isn't it? So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, this is where it is subjective of you're relying on the sponsor being across their projects and not letting them go to the next phase. So it is a risk we identified earlier about, we have got a heavier reliance on those sponsors in this model. So yeah, we just got to monitor that.
Also, it would be getting captured as part of the project management monthly or monthly reporting that this phase has been met, this phase is awaiting, that sort of thing. Once we get past that phase 2 stuff.
Sorry, hang on a sec, Rach, just wanted to ask something.
What's the intent of this monitoring? Where is this going? So the measure that we're measuring and then who's monitoring it, what's the purpose here? Is it getting reported back to somebody? Is it getting reported to ELT? Is it just getting back to Brooke, for example, to then deal with? What's the point?
So the point of it in my space is how does Brooke, as the accountable person for IDF, know that it's working properly and we don't actually have to take action on anything?
Yeah, so that's where I guess at the moment we're just on people too. So let's leave the process stuff to we get to the next lines. That's what I'm comfortable with the first line at the moment. So I think from Sarah's team perspective, from a budgeting, costing, we'll notify for seeing that. Champions if you're observing other things in the business, and then it comes to me and then I'll be assessing based on, I'll have some evaluation things I'll have to do in 12 months time.
That's what I mean. You're not after a hard fast. There's 6 people out of 10 following the...
No, I'm just after people's observations, feedback. That's that subjective bit. But if, I guess more probably will happen in Sarah's space, be more able to see this as if the actual capital budget or costings and things aren't going where they should be, or people are trying to do it without knowing that there isn't a gate approval or something.
It's just the way we're setting this up with the measure of all capital investment decisions, 100%. You're chasing a figure there. So you're setting up some hard and fast data capture is what that's now alluding to. So to get that 100%, you can't have a subjective assessment. You're either in or you're out. That's where my confusion's at here. Sorry.
No, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, and I think we're probably more leaning towards under process decisions being made at appropriate gates and documented. That's probably where that 100% comes in. And is that something that can be reported out of a system?
Yeah. Well, let's move on and let's come back to that when we've gone through the others. It may just that line item we don't even need because it gets captured below.
One thing, so Lisa, I think that subjective assessment was more relevant when we were talking about them understanding the IDF.
Yeah.
Maybe now that you've changed the wording in the criteria, maybe that subjective assessment can come out now.
Yeah. Okay. I'll highlight that and let's come back to it. Might be something else that tweaks us further down. So the next one around people is that new employees undertake the Elmo course when first start. So this is for identified positions. So we've given a list to learning and development now of all the positions that require the Elmo course. So if someone leaves and someone starts, then they'll automatically be given it. So I think the measure of that is to run a report from Elmo to make sure everyone's it's 100% completion of the Elmo course.
So your measure is 100% completion?
Yeah, because it's mandatory training.
Yeah, but then your monitoring is getting the report and stuff.
Yeah, so
kind of combining.
Sorry, so L&D can send me regular reports on.
Yeah. But the wording for the measure isn't get a report from L&D. The measure is 100% completion.
Yeah, you're right.
This is where I'm getting a bit confused.
Sorry, what Rach is saying, Lisa, is that 100% completion should be in the measure column.
It's the measure.
That's the measure, is 100%. How we work that out?
No, so your criteria is right, Lisa.
Sorry, type 100% in the next column.
Next column.
Under measure.
Sorry, that's where I was putting it, and then I thought that was what you were saying was wrong.
No.
So measure is 100% completion.
Yeah. That's it, just leave it. How we work that out is up to us, and that'll be me, I guess. But it'll be my team.
Training record.
And so how we measure, do we not want to capture that here somewhere?
No, I don't think so.
I guess how we measure is different to what the measure is. So you're either going to put another column in, but I think we can work that out. So Lisa, I think we need to work out what it is we want to measure.
Yeah.
And then we go from there.
Okay, right. No, as long as you're comfortable with that and we don't need to give you more guidance, Brooke, at this point.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make sure we're not setting you up. Ooh. I already feel like I'm setting you up, walking out.
Don't tell me that.
Hot potato.
No, you told me that. Righto, process. Scheduled reviews are undertaken as planned. And
Sorry, can we take the word audits out? It's not for us to plan audits. That's for that area. I'm not saying they won't do it, but we can't foresee or plan that, if that makes sense.
No, that's cool. Now, when I say plan stuff, at the moment, this is what we've captured in the business manual of plan stuff. And I'm not sure if this is right. I'm happy this to change, but we've got monthly review of improvement register for the first 6 months, and then quarterly review after that. Then we've got the first review of the IDF corporate standard, 12 months from adoption, and then it goes in a cycle. And we had another one I didn't capture here, which is around a annual review of the IDF business manual, which is more that management review.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's too much or some of those mesh together as the same thing.
No, leave them separated because they are separate documents, but they'll likely occur, some of them will occur concurrently together.
Yeah.
So, i.e., if we review the corporate standard in 12 months, we'll do the business manual together at the same time.
Yes. Okay, so that one makes sense then?
Yeah.
And is that 100% completion too?
Yeah. Where's that? You said it's captured in the business manual?
Yes, this is.
Yeah.
Governance team. All improvement items are assessed and appropriate action taken or scheduled. Or just said, thanks very much. We're not making any changes. It doesn't warrant a change.
Yeah. Yeah, we may not do anything just because we get a suggestion doesn't mean we do anything with it. We will acknowledge and give a response.
Pardon?
I said we will at least acknowledge receiving it and give a response, but it doesn't mean we'll actually change or do anything.
Correct. So does this wording need to reflect that, or you're happy with appropriate action taken? Because the action could be respond and say thanks very much, but no thank you.
Maybe we just need to say all improvement items are assessed and response provided.
Yeah.
And that's 100%.
Yeah, I dare say it, but should we have a time frame?
I'm going to say, have you got a time limit on what's your turnaround of an improvement item assessment?
I would say you want to, maybe not to say 100%, Lisa, maybe we say initial response within 10 days.
Yeah,
or
so
some sort of 10 days.
Acknowledged.
We talk about a monthly review of that improvement register, which is what we're talking about here.
Yeah, but I don't think it's good internal customer service to leave people a month without at least an acknowledgement.
Yeah, okay.
Vicky, what do you think?
Yeah, we definitely have to acknowledge earlier than that. And then in that acknowledgement, you can say, you know, we expect to have some feedback to you by such and such a date. But yeah, most people want to know that you've received it.
Yeah.
So is it true then, acknowledge, it's more the measure. So acknowledge within 10 business days, but we want 100% completion in terms of actually closed out with a resolution. So is there two ways we're measuring this criteria? One is the response time or the acknowledgement time, and the other is making sure we're actually completing these out.
I think they're
the two different criteria.
I think it is acknowledgement within 10 days.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think we leave it at that for now, Salisa. We've already got the one above that says we're going to at least review it every month. I don't want to commit to doing certain things because I don't know what we may be asked to do. Does that make sense? Like if someone suggests an improvement that we review and go, yeah, that's a great idea, but we need 12 months before we can do it. We can't really close it out, but then I don't want to have a thing saying I'm going to have closed it all out every month. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily going to get closed out at the next monthly meeting, but it will be reviewed. And the response might be that, yeah, we need to further investigate, or we just say, see you later.
I guess what I'm trying to get at there, though, is the item above included monthly review. So we've already got that.
Yeah, okay, so I've just got acknowledged within 10 business days.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Keep scrolling. Decisions are being made for appropriate dates and documented.
I think this is more that 100% capital investments are made through IDF, not outside.
Yeah.
Because that's what you're saying there is decisions. So that's essentially the measure is we want 100% decisions following the process.
Yep.
I don't know, do you need some time frames around decisions at gates? I know that's really difficult, but how do you know, like if I take 3 months to make a decision at gate 2, is that really acceptable?
Oh, yeah, so you're saying it's timely decisions are being made.
Yeah, this process is supposed to be efficient and have a minimal amount of red tape. So if we get to a decision gate and, you know, it's taking somebody 3 months to make a decision on whether it goes to the next stage, to me that's unacceptable.
That also identifies as a potential issue where the information, either the person who's submitting that project doesn't understand what information is required, or the decision maker doesn't understand what they need to make the decision. So it could potentially also highlight some improvement issues. So that's good.
Could that be applied in a similar way as our contracts are, with, you know, responsiveness of information has to be within like 14 days?
Yeah, so Lisa, I'm just
it's
wondering.
Applied to our contractors.
So Lisa, do we have anything through all the tools and templates and everything that sets time frames on that stuff, or no?
Nothing, not a single thing.
Yeah, I'm feeling like this is a different issue. We need to have a bit of a look at. I'm not sure we can influence something when we're not the decision maker. Like a project sponsor could be a GM, and they may take, and I agree with you, Vicky, that it shouldn't take 3 months to make a decision, but what gives us any realm to tell them, hurry up?
Yeah.
Because there's nothing that says they have to.
Yeah, and remember too, for the different investment categories, you actually want them to take more time on some decisions.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. If it's a particularly complex, significant investment, that's going to take a bit longer than a standard investment. So I don't know. How do you stop? How do you ensure that we're maximizing performance at the decision gate?
Can we park this one? I think it's a bit more.
Could you use it as part of the identifying the stakeholders and sponsors' roles and responsibilities? We know they're subjected to the fact that a huge job is going to more complex, more time, but we should still have everything's got to be done by June, so we should have some sort of a lock-in to say you need to have this done within a reasonable amount of time. That might need to be a little bit more information put into the manual, as in the degree of complexity. Maybe we allow X amount of time for the different types of capital.
Can I suggest that this is something we monitor and see if it becomes a problem?
Yeah.
I'm just a little bit cautious that this is a big new process and we're putting a lot on sponsors already. That I get what you're all saying, but I don't know. I'm just a bit worried that we're kind of setting ourselves up to fail before we've even really embedded this.
Yeah, no, I'm happy with that, Lisa.
Can we perhaps for the first year of operation sort of map the statistics around how long it takes the various categories of investments to go through the entire process?
I'm not sure the ability to capture that.
Would be key in the sense that once we go to workflows, in Tech 1, then when a, say, project manager says, yep, ready for gate decision, that'll timestamp, and then we'll get the timestamp when the sponsor approves or makes a decision. So we will have that data, I'm assuming we can then pull out of Tech 1.
Yeah,
just on the side note.
Sorry.
That's if it's getting captured in that system. But on a side note, as part of the PMF, for our monthly reviews, project and forecast, we actually have that information where we can just say, what is this? What is the stage? Yeah, it's still awaiting sponsor decision. We've said we're going to do it by X. Once we start red flagging that time it's taken too long, it gets highlighted in that report as well, which are captured by Denisa and the POW side of it.
Okay, so where did we land on that? That we're leaving for the moment time frames, but we know we're capturing data to assess it to see whether we're going to introduce something later on.
Yep.
Yeah. Right.
Monitor and assess.
So, okay, the next one was around, just picking up, Dion, you said something before about stakeholders and making sure we're doing stakeholder engagement. I just realised there's nothing in here about it because we've made mandatory that there needs to be a stakeholder engagement plan from the identify phase.
Yep.
Is that something we should have a performance criteria in here? And maybe that's just done by a sample?
Yeah, because I think when I read through it, there was not the sponsor, the mental blanking what the other position was. Before it comes to PM in the phase 1, 2, there was a requirement along with the risk assessment was the stakeholder and sponsor communications requirements sort of thing. When it's identified who the sponsor is, part of it will be that A, this is an urgent works, so therefore we'll need to push it, or B, it's a future works and the timing can be suited. That's the problem. We've got things that'll be urgent versus non, and what'll get the priority on the day is going to be different.
Yeah, which is a whole nother thing, but the stakeholder engagement specifically, you can't you know, we have pain points, and that's why we've made the engagement plan mandatory from that identify phase, which is straight after gate 0.
Yep.
What do you think, Brooke?
I don't know, sorry, my brain's hurting a bit. I don't think we can do time elements at the moment, but I am conscious we're rolling something new out and it will evolve. So I think we keep an eye on it as we go and see how
Monitor and review.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, right. Technology space, I had quality of data is maintained in IPP. I'm not really sure how to measure this, and considering we know it's already not good, it's other than the time that asset governance spends doing QA checks reduces.
It really comes down to everybody that's involved in it, looking at the quality of the data. So somebody might raise it, you know, and it gets to gate 0, but then somebody else has to approve and, you know, go through each gate. I'd be hoping that they'd be reviewing the data and not, you know, progressing it through if it was crap.
Well, is it then how we measure it? Good point, Sarah. How we measure it is how many gate decisions need more information, because that's an option. There's 4 decisions a sponsor can make. One of them is need more information,
Which puts it back a gate.
which just doesn't pass it through the gate. It just pushes it back to the proponent or the project manager to say, hey, you haven't filled this out properly or you haven't done everything.
Is this though more the future process of when it's got workflows built into it and people are lodging direct in the system versus the paper side of things now initially?
Yeah.
So the reason I asked that question is the paper side of thing, I think, is monitoring asset governance and what they input based on what they're given, versus when it's all directly workflowed, then that's more your future, what stuff gets pushed back. Because I'm assuming there's mandatory fields in the workflows that are getting built.
I guess in the manual space, before it is in the fully in the system, as long as the asset governance team don't just input, you know, the data they receive, they do and know when to question the quality, then that'd be fine for the paper-based. And then as long as whoever can approve, once it's in the system, are aware of the quality of the data and the requirements, just telling the right people, I guess, at the right time.
Sorry, can I just clarify, is this around the quality of the data we're provided to put into IPP or the quality of the data that's actually in IPP?
Both.
I'm not sure, to be honest. What would we like it to be? What makes sense to monitor?
Well, you've got a separate project to clean up, you know, what's already in IPP. That's a separate project in itself. So I think this should just be the quality of all the new things that are going through the IPP.
What's the definition of quality?
Yeah, I was going to ask that. I'm a little bit stumped on this.
Sorry, the reason I'm saying this, Sarah, is that it's probably not a technology thing. It's probably more a process one then, because it's about the quality and completeness of the data provided that's required through the IDF. You know what I mean? And then it go, like, once it's into the once it's into the workflows, we don't, like, that will require it to have certain data, and that's where that becomes about, you know, the completeness and quality that's provided from the proponents or the project sponsors, whoever. Does that make sense? So
yeah, I agree. It's not technology. It's process. Yeah, something that's coming to mind in my eyes when you're talking about quality is to do with, you know, making sure that the project descriptions or make sense.
people can understand them. And
Yeah, because currently we've got heaps of projects called, I can't even think of any right now, I'm too tired, but heaps of random things, and nobody actually knows what that project is about because the description's not, right. But that's just one example. Or I have mentioned, Lisa, to yourself, about the people understanding the difference between new, renewal and upgrade, because that has a flow-on effect to our asset sustainability ratio if they don't understand which one it's actually supposed to go in.
Yeah.
So in terms of completeness and quality of data,
I would suggest this is data's not entered, that's not clear or something along those lines, and it's really up to asset governance because they're doing the entering.
Well, who's doing the review of the IPP?
That's another project for in the next round, isn't it?
Oh no, I mean, as each IPP is raised, is somebody reviewing it to make sure that it is a legible and understandable, that it's what you're actually asking for. You're not just asking for a hole when you want a bucket.
Who's monitoring that?
So asset governance is responsible for that data. So I think a question I haven't asked and I'm going to take away from this session is, even when we go to that workflow process, do they still need to be in that, and at what point? So say a proponent submits a business case, should it actually go to asset governance first to do a check, like a QA check, before it then goes to the sponsor?
Is it even required to check? Yes.
I still think it has to, Salisa, at any point. I still think asset governance has to be across it.
Would an optimal time be when it gets picked up in the capital portfolio?
No, because there's 2 phases before it hits then.
Yeah.
And the 2 phases...
It should be at the 0 phase.
Yeah, I'm not sure, because we don't, workflow-wise, we don't want to add more complications into, our future system setup. But maybe it's just something that they do I don't know, a quarterly review of everything at a certain gate, or a monthly review of everything at a certain gate, and just make sure it, passes the requirements.
Yeah, can I say, with the manual process, it goes to them because someone needs to enter it, obviously, manually at the moment. Are they under the understanding that they are expected to do a check first before they enter it now?
Their process, so business documented in procedures, they actually do a QA check as part of what they do when they enter it.
Yep, so in the new process, once workflows are built, what I'm hearing is we're not building in that QA process for them then?
I think it's something that's been overlooked, and what Sarah's saying is we need to be careful. We haven't got a fancy software system that we're working with, so the more parts to the workflow, that makes it more complicated, which makes it harder to build. So not saying we can't, we just need to be careful and consider that when we decide whether we insert them or whether there's an alternate option to still get the QA check done, but they're not in that actual workflow.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I just think, I agree though, if it's not built into those workflows, then there needs to be something, I would suggest monthly, where they do a check of any changes made. Do you know what I mean? Or a check of any new stuff approved, or like, I'm not saying they check every single project once a month. They should. Is there a way, Sarah, to run a report or anything that shows which projects have had changes made that month, type of thing?
Yeah, we should be able to run something.
Yeah, so I think maybe if that gets set up instead, so then you don't have to change your workflows and you don't complicate that. But if we build some sort of notification process where they can do a QA of just things that have changed to make sure that consistency and quality of data is applied.
Yeah.
Yep, cool. So the last one then is IPP workflows and direct entry of data is reflective of process. I don't think that is one.
What
Because
does
once
that
it's
mean?
set up, it should be.
Yeah, should already be set up.
Yeah, I don't think it's a monitoring one.
No, is there anything for technology we need to capture? That it's working?
Yeah, I was going to say, how do we capture that it's working? Yeah.
The only thing I would say technology-wise, and it may not be technology either, I'm not sure, but is how are we monitoring that items are closed out? Like if a project's finished, how do we ensure the technology's got it completed off? Or is that, again, just a regular
report?
It's gate 6 approval. Gate 6 approval is when the project closes. That's the very last thing you do.
You could have, I guess, a report in future that could go, okay, well, we've got, we want to do a review of everything that's at gate 3, and we can see the date that they went to gate 3. And if it's been, if they've been in there for a year, you go, well, what's going on here?
Yeah.
But that probably comes back to that process that we discussed earlier about that timely decision.
I'm just wondering, does IPP have a status field or no?
Yes. So it has the phase status. So what's the current phase it's in?
Yeah.
And Ryan, the Tech One consultant, is working out around, because I originally had a field called the last gate approval.
Yeah.
But certainly that, and we're not sure we need that one, but certainly that phase one has identify, select, so it has all the phases, and then it has one complete. So once you get gate 6 approval, you can mark it as complete then.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if I get the gate phases, but when I think status, I think it's either in progress, it's on hold, it's complete, or it's not progressing.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess it's great if you can run a report on the phase it's in and when it started that phase, but if you don't have any way to tell that, yes, we're currently working on that, or no, we've put it on hold because we don't have any money to go any further for now. Like it could sit there for 18 months in that phase if we've got no dollars to keep progressing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it will have something to show that it's on hold. I'm just not sure what that looks like yet.
Okay.
That would only apply to the phases 1 through to 2, because once we get into the phase 3 and it's handed over with project management, part of the reporting process is showing what phase it's at, and you could have, and we actually have our forecast date versus actual date, which is updated with our monthly forecast for each project.
But you could get in phase 3 doing detailed design and then not get approval to go to phase 4 to execute.
Otherwise,
that might
detailed
be
design
it becomes a close off.
Sorry, say that again.
Once the project manager ties in at the end of phase 2 there, I think it was.
Yep.
That will become part of the monthly forecasting, which information can go back to sponsors or the asset owner, etc., whoever the stakeholder is that needs to be informed, because it's already in our monthly reporting.
IPP still needs to be updated to reflect it. So once it enters capital portfolio, it's been effectively captured in 2 places, Dion.
Yeah. But it's like we're already showing it in one. Maybe it's just a matter of having that report reflect back into the IPP to show it's been stalled or it's awaiting finance or whatever it might be, post that early design phase stuff.
Yeah, so there's 2 things here. One is obviously where we forecast the dollars in the monthly forecast. If we're forecasting them way out 2 years' time because we know it's on hold, or once we finish concept design, we're going to hold it, in the capital portfolio, you'll forecast those dollars way out, or not even forecast expenditure for delivery.
We'll
So
be
what will be in
forecasting-
IPP, but what will be in IPP, because it's a 10-year view, we will show those costs potentially out in year 8 or 9 maybe, and we will show that it's on hold because we're not actively working on it anymore.
Yep.
And probably in the
just
capital
require that
portfolio.
3-monthly review of the IPP again.
Pardon?
So that regular review of the IPP, the monthly, 3-monthly, quarterly, annual, would be reassessing that. Is it still valid and pushing it out there?
Yeah. Okay. So going back to your thing, Brooke, I guess around completed, we'll follow, it'll need to be followed up on in terms of that status column, but certainly we need to have a way to say it's on hold.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you just do, does the IPP have the capability of running a report which shows everything, what stage, what phase it's in, and what the status of it is within that phase?
We
What
can
do you
run
mean
a
the
report
status?
on.
Go, Sarah.
I was just going to say we can run a report on any of the data that's in there, as well as any dates that things have changed. So, yeah. So once you tailor what you want, as long as we've got the fields in there to capture the information, then we can develop a report that will give us what we want to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just a case of working out what reports you want to see. Like, for example, if you've had something that's sitting at gate 2 and it's been at gate, it's got gate 2 approval, but it's been there for about 12 months, that would sort of prompt you to go, well, what's happening with that one?
Could the technology then item be around developing those reporting tools within the system that we need to be to provide the
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we've got to determine what reporting that we need the system to produce for us.
Is that just it?
Yeah, so I don't know how you measure that, but it's kind of a as needs.
Yeah, and I think we kind of have to have been operating the system for a little while to understand, the complete set of reports that are going to help us make meaningful decisions.
And it's really as need, you are completing 100%. So as it's needed, you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that really how we measure if the IDF is working? Like, I don't know. I don't really see that as ongoing monitoring.
I feel like we're just creating a measure for the sake of creating a measure. Do you even need a technology one? It's all part of the process. Like, we don't have to have one.
No. I don't think it's a measure. It's just an action. It's an improvement action. Are you happy if I delete that and we just don't have technology? Because technology would be that the technology is available 100% of the time, or it's kind of more that the technology is there for us to utilise that supports this process. And I don't think that's relevant because at the end of the day, it's just a big fancy Excel spreadsheet, so it's always available.
Yeah, no, that sounds fine. Hey, just a question. Have we got much left in this session?
No, because we're about to finish.
Okay,
We're just finishing up.
I'm at my desk and they've organised the afternoon tea for my birthday, and I feel guilty.
Okay. Well, the only other thing that I wanted to show you was that in terms of people submitting improvement ideas, there will be a link. Similar Capital Project Management Framework has it already. and it's just basically a register a list, and you just hit new item, and then it's a form you fill in, and then it populates on that list. That's as simple as it's going to be for people to add improvement ideas. So I just wanted to share that. It's not yet created, but will be probably early next week, since Danielle has been off sick yesterday and today. So that was it. That's all I've got. So any other questions?
No, not from me.
Oh.
Makes sense? All good, Brooke?
Yeah, thanks, Liv.
Okay, right. Well, that's all from me. Thanks very much, girls. I'll talk to you later.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. See you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.